I'm John Skinner, and this supports my book, Fishing for Summer Flounder, Fluke Jigging from Shore Boat and Kayak, and you can learn more about the book at flounderbook.com. I'll be jigging with John Skinner S&S Fluke bucktails in the weight range of 1.5 to 3 ounces. Above that, I've got Tsunami silicone skirt glass minnow teasers. Everything will be tipped with gulp. So this is a very interesting trip for me. My usual fluke fishing grounds, this is Long Island Sound, my usual grounds have not been good this spring. So I'm a bit further east, which is kind of good because I'm closer to where I live now. But yeah, I've only been on this spot once before, and you can see there's nobody else out here. And the current is going to be one of the more interesting aspects of this trip. Now, I'm getting out here. This is early in the flood. This is probably about an hour and a half in. So I've got an increasing current speed, and I'm starting with 1.5 ounces, and boy, you know, I can tell I'm scoping out here. If you can see, I'm dropping line, and yeah. And then what I'm doing there is I was actually tightening my drag because I leave the drag open when I store the rods to keep the pressure off the drag washer. And as I was tightening the drag, yeah, I get a hit and set the hook, and so this is how my trip starts. This is the first drift, and yep, this is going to be a sign of how this day is going to go. So wow, it would be nice if every trip started like this. And you see, I'm looking at my fish finder there. Like I said, I've been here one other time. What was interesting was, you know, I was set to take a mark on this, but when I looked, I already had a mark very close to this. And yeah, so I'm in roughly 40 feet of water here, and yeah, so I'm off to a good start. That's 1.5 ounces bucktail, but you know what? I don't think I'm going to make another drift with that bucktail. I'm going to go immediately to a 2 ounce because, like I said, it's already scoping.
First drop of the morning.
The current speed is increasing. And right now the current speed is nice. It's about 1 to 1.2, but I know this area from bass fishing. Although I haven't fluke fished it just one other time, I have bass fished in the general area, so I know it picks up some pretty good current speed out here. All right, and that bucktail is the 1.5 ounce fixed hook, John Skinner S&S Fluke bucktail. They go up to 1.5 ounces, and from 2 ounces on, they're all swing hooks. All right, so I'm at 2 ounces right now. This is my second drift. I'm towards the back of the drift, but look, there's that big angle in the line again. The current is accelerating. I'm now up to like 1.5 miles an hour. It's picking up pretty fast. And yeah, I know this isn't doing it. In fact, yeah, what am I doing here? I'm going to the bag, and I've got a 3 ounce ready to roll. And yeah, I'm going to go up to 3 ounces because I can see I'm picking up too much angle, and the current's only going to get faster. And it's not like I have any wind to deal with here. It's all current. But hey, this is going to be fun. What's going to happen next? And I'll have links to all of the gear in the description of the video.
Either blue or a striper. Probably a striper. Not too many blues around. Ooh. Good one, whatever it is. Nice striper. Oh, he's just diving. I should take it a little easy on him in case he's on the teaser. Oh yeah, found a bucktail. I've made 2 drifts and I got at least a 5-pound fluke, and this is a decent bass.
I mentioned this being the second time that I've fluke fished these grounds. It turns out the previous time I fluke fished here, I also had a bass, not this big, but yeah, you know, it happens. It's a good looking rig, and yeah, so that's a cool thing about a bucktail. You never know what's going to hit it. Yeah, what a great start to the trip. 2 drifts and 2 nice fish, and boy, this is shaping up to be just a beautiful day. Of course, stripers are great eating. I really prefer fluke, and I let the stripers go. Now, this is actually this is the 4th week of June, so the waters are getting kind of warm. It's like, I think it's around 67 or so. It's not too bad. But you know what? That's 15-pound braid. Obviously, that, you know, was not a quick fight because I'm not, you know, expecting this fish on that tackle. So got him in as best I could. But I did make sure I revive him. You know, he wanted to go, and then, you know, so the release is good, and that fish should do just fine. So I'd love to tell you this is my 3rd drift, but it is not. This might be close to 2 hours after that bass, and I'll have a lot to say about that. Basically, the current speed was up to 1.7 to 1.9 on my next drift, and yeah, I'll get to that in a second.
Come on. Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Beautiful.
Boy, for the life of me, I've never done well when that drift speed for fluke has gotten up in that 1.7, 1.9 range. It just never worked for me. I did stick it out, you know, made a few drifts, especially after getting, you know, off to a nice start. But no, so I did go inshore. I tried a couple of spots where the drift was a little bit slower, but there just wasn't anything in there, so I came back out. And this happened to be the previous drift to this one. I saw the current slip down to like 1.6, and I caught a short, and then I went up on that drift. It was 1.5, and then here we go, and the fishing is just going to pick up. Along with the drop in the current speed, I'm also getting a little shift in the direction of the drift, and it's actually kind of shifting the boat a little bit, but it's okay.
Oh yeah.
By the way, at times you hear a little clicking in my reel when I'm reeling. It's not all the time. turned out I had a loose nut on the handle, and yeah, once I tightened that up, that took care of it. So yeah, the people had asked about that on a previous video, and that's what it was. It was just a loose thing. I tightened it up. So if you've noticed, all 4 fish came on the bucktail, and you know what? If you're using a high quality bucktail and you're using the correct weight, it should be almost 50-50 between the teaser and the bucktail. I think the biggest mistake is probably going too heavy in the bucktail. Looks unnatural, and that's why they hit the teaser. But yep, they're certainly grabbing the bucktail this trip. I'm a big fan of short focus drifts, and if you look on the right hand side of the fish finder, you see all that red. Those are my drift lines, and you know what? I am just burning a hole in this spot. I have tried a little bit either side. This is where I'm getting the fish. I'm just short drifting it, working it over and over and over, and it's just paying off. Okay, so remember I went up to 3 ounces, and yeah, even with the faster current, I was able to stay down fine with 3 ounces. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the fish just weren't hitting on that peak current. But now that it's slowed down, I've backed off. I'm down to 2 ounces now. Drift speed like 1 mile an hour, just perfect.
Sea bass.
So the bag limit on sea bass is 3, so there's 2/3 of a limit right there. The limit's only 15 inches, and those are definitely at least 16. You know what? There's not a lot of meat on those 15 to 16-inch sea basses compared to the larger ones, so I'm going to end up just letting these guys go and hoping to get some larger ones. If I don't, I don't. I obviously have plenty of meat up in the cooler, but yeah, that was neat. A couple of nice ones right there as a doubleheader. And the funny thing was, these were the first sea bass I caught on this trip. You know, I've been out more than 3 hours, and those are the first ones, not the last though. Okay, that's another legal one for sure. And note that this guy has both the teaser and the bucktail in its mouth. It hit both. So that one was actually caught on 1.5 ounces. I'm at 1.5 ounces now, and I've got no drift. I'm looking at on the GPS 0.1, 0.2 miles an hour, and yet I know the fish are here. And I never ever do this, but I'm actually going to back troll a little bit. So I've got the motor running, and I'm going to kick it into reverse here and there, and just looking to get a little bit of movement. And you know what? This is going to pay off. It's going to catch me some fish. I'm just looking to keep that speed in the range of roughly 0.7, 0.8, 1.0, somewhere in there.
Feels like a fluke and a sea bass. It is a big sea bass. I'll take that one. That's a big sea bass.
Okay, so as I do with the Fluke, I'm going to bleed this guy out. You know, give him a good slit across the gills and get him bleeding. And yeah, it just really makes such a difference in the quality of the meat. It also makes the cleaning table much cleaner to get him bleeding. So yeah, I've got my little bit extra tall bucket there and put him in there, and then in a couple of minutes it will have bled out, and I'll put it on ice with the Fluke. Okay, I'm still back trolling here, and yeah, just I've got my marks. I'm just running over it and just trying to cover some ground. So an interesting aspect of this trip for me was when I got back to the ramp, I met up with a retired bay constable who worked these waters for many years, and he saw where I was fishing, and I told him what I had, and he said to me, he goes, "Nobody fluke fishes there." He says, he's all the years I've been working those waters. He says, "That's not some place that people target fluke." He said, "Stripers, sure, but it's really not a fluke spot." It surprised me because I mean, what do? I look on my chart and I see a good shoal. I mean, it looked good. And the previous year, the one trip I made out here, the first time I went out here, I don't think I had my line in the water 10 seconds and I got a 5-pounder. And then after that, I caught some more. So I just assumed it was where people fluke fish. And I'm sure some people do. I mean, how could they not? I ended up getting about 20 fluke on this trip, counting the shorts. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting when he said that to me, that yeah, people don't fluke fish over there. Well, they probably should. Alright, so the bag limit on fluke is 4 fish, and that's my 4th, so I've got my limit of fluke. I've actually have caught a limit of sea bass, but I've only kept that one big one, and so I'm going to fish a little bit longer. Hey, you know what? I took a vacation day to be out here, and it's not even, what is it? Oh, it's 11:29 I saw on the watch. So it's still early in the day, and I want to spend some more time out on the water before I go in. And the bag limit on stripers is it's one fish at 28 inches. So yep, so I've caught a limit of 3 species: fluke, sea bass, and striped bass. So I had been back trolling there, and I just shut the engine off. I must have been idling, and I saw that I was moving. Even though it was only like 0.3, 0.4, it was something. And so I've shut the engine off, and I'll just drift. Yeah, so since I got that, let's see, it's the 2nd fluke. I had one short before that, but as that current died, the shorts really picked up, and they're all about this size. They're like 16, 17 inches, and yeah, there's actually a fair number of them now, and throughout this trip I'm going to end up catching probably 12 to 15 shorts, so in total, quite a few fluke. It was decent action once that current speed slowed down. So you might have seen there with the gulp, those are 6-inch grubs, and it got a little bit loose. I just turn it around, put it back on, and the nice thing about those bait holder hooks on those teasers is it'll stay on there pretty well. So that's actually another keeper, but I'm going to put him right back in the water. Ah, look at that, I finally have some company. And before I left, he did swing by and mention that he likes my video. So hey, if you're watching, you'll get to see what the action looked like before you got there. Yep, it fooled me. I thought that was going to be a fluke. You know, I felt the hit. Must have hit the teaser, and when I set the hook, I whacked them with the bucktail. So, and it's a big sea bass. So that's one that's definitely going to go home for dinner. So, and that's going to be it. I'm going to pack it in at this point. So, all right. Well, that was for me. That was a real interesting trip dealing with the different current speeds and all. And so I hope you enjoyed that and maybe learned something from it. And if you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel.